Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is T with Meta Endurance, and today we're going to have a look at the New Balance Fresh Foam More V6. Let's dig in. The shoe marks the latest version of New Balance's max cushioned lineup, the Fresh Foam More. It is a max cushioned shoe with a chunky amount of sole. It has 44 millimeters in the heel and a 4 millimeter drop to make it 40 millimeters in the forefoot. It comes in at 170 euros, 160 USD, and 150 GBP, which makes it on the mid to high end price point for a max cushion shoe, kind of where you would expect a shoe like this to be. The shoe weighs 306 grams in a men's size US 9.5 and 241 grams in a woman's size US 8, which is slightly lighter than the previous version, which came in at 316 grams if I'm not wrong. Always nice to see weight being dropped. The midsole compound is a Fresh Foam X, which is an EVA and PBA blend, and the outsole is nothing special, just New Balance rubber. The upper of the shoe is a general just mesh, similar to what you would see in the previous version. For me, one thing about the upper is that it fits very nicely. It locks down the foot nicely. There's nothing particularly outstanding in terms of breathability. There's nothing that spoke out to me in a sense that this was extremely comfortable. There's a nice amount of padding in the heel. I would say the previous version of the shoe was relatively narrow or a bit tight on my foot, whereas they've really fixed that with this upper. It's a lot more spacious, it's less rubbing on my foot, so I think they really improved the fit of the shoe. The previous version of the V5 was probably my favorite shoe to wear. It was super versatile in many use cases, and I think in general they made very good improvements on the upper. They improved the lacing system, they improved even just the padding in the heel, the overall wider toe box, better fit. I think the upper for me has come a long way. It nothing to write home about, nothing extremely breathable, nothing extremely innovative. But at the end of the day, for this kind of shoe, what you want is a nice upper that just locks down your foot, and that's exactly what this gives. And moving on to the midsole. So the midsole is, again, like I mentioned, a Fresh Foam X EVA PBA compound. The midsole is a nice ride. I would say that the one thing which I noticed compared to the previous version is that the shoe is a lot more unidimensional in terms of how you use it. The midsole is great. It's soft, it's cushioned, it takes away load off your feet as a max cushion trainer should do, but it's less versatile. So what does that mean? It means that the shoe is less usable for other types of running. I think this shoe is very much an easy running shoe. You use it for your easy miles. It is there for your slower running. It's there for your longer runs. It's there for anything that requires you to have a bit more of a slow or cushioned supportive ride. Whereas the previous version of the shoe for me felt super versatile, it could do anything kind of shoe. You could use it for up-tempo sessions. You could even use it for racing if you wanted to. I would say that this shoe has become much more unidimensional, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I'd say it's very good at what it does. So the first thing I noticed when putting this shoe on is it feels like it has a wider toe box. It feels like it has a wider, more supportive feel, much more stable. So my feelings for the ride of the shoe is that the midsole has definitely improved. The midsole is much more unidimensional, but maybe that's not always a bad thing. I think it's an easy running shoe, and that doesn't hide what it is. The midsole feels very soft, very responsive. It feels like it takes away effort from my legs, which is perfect for an easy day. And I think that's exactly what it does. It's very good. The Fresh Foam X compound is nice. And while the midsole is the same as the previous version, I would say it definitely feels different. It feels maybe slightly more firm and, like I said, more stable. So potentially they might have slightly tweaked, made it slightly firmer. But still, it's a very soft compound. It's a very supportive ride. It feels like I'm running on clouds, which is always a nice sensation in your easy day shoe. So moving on to the ride, I briefly mentioned it before, but the ride of the shoe is very neutral, I would say, very simple. It does have a bit of a rocker, it does have a 4 millimeter drop, but do you notice that? Not really. When you have 44 millimeters in the heel and 40 millimeters in the forefoot, you're always going to feel like the ride is relatively neutral. I would say that's always a good thing, though. It means it's supportive to different people's running styles. I definitely enjoyed the ride of the shoe. I didn't feel overly aggressive, as some max cushion trainers will do. The 4 millimeter drop, I think, works really well. You have a bit of a rocker, but at the same time, you don't feel like you're being forced forward or like you're being forced to run too much on your forefoot. I would say the shoe really appeals to different foot strikes. You have that For me, more of a mid to forefoot strike, which I really enjoyed because it has a nice 40 millimeters in the forefoot. But I say even if you were a midfoot or a rear foot striker, you would still have the same sensation that it's a soft shoe. It's a bouncy shoe. It feels comfortable, feels soft, and at the end of the day, for an easy day trainer, that's all you need. That's all you want. So actually, no negatives on the ride. I would say that the ride is stable. I don't overly pronate in this shoe. I don't overly supinate in this shoe. I'd say this shoe is very supportive to most runners with a wide toe box, with a generous amount of foam. I would say the ride is very nice. And then lastly, let's have a look at the outsole. So is it very different to the previous version? I wouldn't say that I noticed any differences in grip. I would say the rubber is the exact same. I did over 1,000 kilometers in the Fresh Foam V5. I've already done maybe 200-300 kilometers in this shoe, and as you can tell, the outsole is not that worn. I would say the durability of this shoe is really good. The outsole doesn't wear much. The grip on the shoe is fine. I've tested it in dry conditions, wet conditions, traily conditions. I would say that the outsole is nothing to write home about. It's nothing special. It's just your typical New Balance outsole, but it works well. It doesn't have any collaborations with Continental or Michelin or any of those rubber brands, but sometimes in-house works best, and I think this is very much the case for this shoe. I wouldn't say bring it out to a wet, traily day where you have mud. It doesn't have that kind of grip. But in general, the outsole is very nice. It's very grippy in most conditions. And the wear, in terms of durability, I would say is actually surprisingly very good. What I noticed in the previous version was that the rubber especially started wearing out towards the edges. Maybe that's my running style. But for this one so far, having done maybe 200-300 kilometers in them, I would say this is pretty good. Some shoes, you see a lot more wear on the outsole. There's obviously a bit of exposed foam, but because there's 44 millimeters, I'm sure that by the time you really wear it out, the shoe is probably dead anyways. So I mentioned a few times the previous version, the V5. This is the V6 here. I've done over 1,000 kilometers. It was one of my favorite shoes last year. We actually have a review up on our website if you click here, and you can see that even our reviewers and testers, I think it was Silka who did this, really liked this shoe. For me, this was a perfect, versatile, daily, up-tempo. You could use it for so much. So when I saw these shoes arrive in the office, I was very, very excited. Did I get disappointed? Maybe slightly, but that's because I thought so fondly of the previous version. I think this shoe is just much more unidimensional, as I mentioned earlier in the video. It doesn't feel like it is versatile. It's very much an easy day shoe. So if you ask me what do you use this shoe for, I would say easy miles, daily miles, long runs. Whereas in the previous version, if you would ask me, I would say up-tempo. I would say even, faster stuff if you wanted to. It was just that really fat cushioned, but still felt quite aggressive, still felt quite nimble. I'm not sure what it is. This shoe is lighter than the previous version. It has similar specs to the previous version. Maybe it's just that it's wider, it's much more stable. It feels much more like a supportive cushioned shoe. I think Andy wrote a review on the show on our website as well if you want to check that out here, and you can compare the two. Yeah, so in general, how would I say that it's an improvement from the previous version? I would say for what it is, for a daily trainer, I would say yes, it is improved for its basic function as a daily max cushioned shoe, which takes away from your fatigue in your legs. Overall, do I feel like it is an improvement on the previous version? I would say that's a bit iffy on my side. Maybe I have bias because I love the previous version, and this one is a bit more of a fat, chunky shoe, whereas the previous version was a bit more of a nimble shoe. Visually, I also prefer the previous version. I would say I do really like the shoe, but I think in general, where does this fit in your lineup? It is your daily running, your easy running, your longer miles. I would never take this shoe anywhere longer or faster than that. I would never race in the shoe, but that's personally me knowing that there's better options in the market. Where does it compare to other shoes that are on the market, or what would I compare the shoe to? I would say the Vomero Plus is a very good comparison. They both feel soft, nimble, max cushioned, over 40 millimeters in both of them. And so if you're looking for a daily long run, easy run, max cushioned shoe, this is a very good option for those who want a wider toe box, who want some more support, who want to feel very stable in their runs. Let us know in the comments if you have any questions. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to see what you think about the shoe. If you have any more questions about the shoe, we'd love to answer your questions. Maybe because I mentioned the V5 so much, we'll put the review to that over here. Check that out. And thanks so much for watching. Enjoy your run, enjoy your ride, go beyond your limits, and I will see you in the next one.